Okay, Shepard, welcome to this video. This video is the first installment of a series that I'm going to put together to help the Arkansas All-State Jazz guitar players and their educators this year. It's for the 2014 and 15 calendar year. I don't know what set that is. I'm not a band director myself, but it's 2014 and 15. I decided to put this together because I get a lot of requests from educators to come work with their guitar players on these etudes. Now, I never seem to have enough time to get around to everybody, so hopefully this year I can be in more places at once for these videos. Hope you enjoy them. Okay, the first line of this etude features what we call Freddie Green style comping. This is essentially a quarter note strum of chords, and it kind of sounds like this. So essentially, I like to use these jazz type of voicings on these kinds of chords, and basically all these chords are built with a simple formula. Use a root, a third, and a seventh. All the ones that I will show you in the following example are all of these type of chords. This type of playing, this comping, should also blend really nicely with the rest of the rhythm section, timbrally. To do this, I like to use the neck pickup, which is the pickup closer to the neck. I like to roll the volume knob down just a little bit and just hit the strings harder when I play to get kind of more of the natural ambient sound of the guitar through to the amplifier that way. It really helps bring out the percussiveness of the figure. It makes it sound more like a drum when it sounds more aggressive when you strum it harder that way. Another tip I would give you on this section would be, as you play the chords, be sure and mute the strings that you're not playing with other fingers on your left hand. So for instance, the first chord of the etude, I would want to mute the low E string with my second finger, since it's not doing anything on that chord. And I'm going to mute the higher strings, the B and the E, with the edge of my first finger laying down on them. That way when I strum this chord, my right hand can just strum with the whole arm. I don't have to worry about bumping into any other strings or anything like that. I'm just real focused on the rhythm and playing the chords in time. Another thing that'll help you get this percussive envelope to the sound, where you want the attack longer, or the attack stronger than the middle and the end of the note, is to gently lift the left hand fingers after you play each chord. So you can just pick one chord out of this intro section here and just try to lift the fingers gently on the left hand, just like this, before you play the next chord. And kind of experiment with the length. Don't make it too short. Don't let them just ring out, but something in between is probably a good idea. So, And maybe a final tip on this intro chordal section I would give you would be to be very careful when you change chords. Know what fingers stay on the same string. So whatever fingering you decide to use, make it one that you're aware of what fingers are staying on a string and what fingers have to change string. So this first two chords, my pinky never leaves the G string. And my second finger, even though it's muting that note on the first chord, it's ready to fret that note on the same string on the next chord. So I have a very ergonomic, functional kind of hand movement there. So I'm going to go ahead and play this section at half speed and show you my written out fingerings and tablature I've devised for this part, and then I'll play it at full speed again for you. The next line of music features some single note lines. A guitarist faces a few challenges when playing single note passages. One of these challenges is controlling the sympathetic vibrations of the strings that you're not playing while you're trying to let the ones that you are playing ring clearly. Ideally, you want single note lines to sound consistent in tone and volume, almost like you're playing them on one big string or on a keyboard perfectly. You don't want them to sound like you're having to navigate a bunch of strings that can be real noisy and get in the way of the strings you're trying to play. The best way to get rid of sympathetic vibrations on the other strings that you're not playing is to mute them. The best way to mute strings that are higher than the one you're playing would be to lay your first finger on the strings higher. So if I'm playing the 7th fret on the G string, I've got my first finger muted over the B and the E string so they can't make any noises. To get the strings that are lower than the ones you're playing, I'm going to put my palm of my right hand on top of the strings that I'm not playing, just right below the one that I am playing. So for instance, I can play the G string to know that I'm fretting, but if I try to play the D, notice my palm is on it, so only the G will come out. So yeah, summary, you mute the higher strings with your first finger by laying it across, no matter what finger's playing, and then you mute the lower strings with your palm. Let me show you two examples of how you can do it right and do it wrong. The first one I'll do it wrong, the second one I'll do it right. The next line of music measures 9 through 12, features some chords that are played in a specific rhythm. I prefer to play these chords as 3-note block chords as opposed to big bar chords. If you can keep the notes down to 3 notes, and you can play them with your pick, your middle finger, and your ring finger on your right hand, and you can block them all at the same time like a keyboard. This allows you to play really tight and exact rhythms that will translate really well with the rest of your group. Now I'm going to play them at a slow tempo and a fast tempo. Take note though, from the video at the beginning where I played it all the way through, I actually played a G9 chord instead of a G7 as written in the music. So this time I'll go ahead and play it as a G7. I just think the first time I was reading through it real fast and didn't really pay attention to the details, so I'll do it right. The first measure of this next line is a great place to teach the technique of sweep picking in context of something. Sweep picking is a lot of guitar players know is when you play individual notes on consecutive adjacent strings with the same direction and also with the same pick stroke. So if you have 3 consecutive strings going towards the floor with 3 different notes, you can play them all with the downstroke like this. Or if you have 3 going up lower on the fretboard, you can play them all with upstrokes. So every time I see some kind of triplet pattern, especially when it's an arpeggio and I can play it on 3 different strings or 4 different strings, I'm always trying to find a way to finger it so I can sweep past it. And I don't know if that's just because I'm lazy. I like the technique, or maybe it's the Yngwie Malmsteen coming out of me. I don't know. To demonstrate how much energy it saves to sweep pick a passage like this, I'm going to play you the first measure, but just a strict alternate picking pattern, and then play it with a sweep pattern. That way you can see for yourself how much easier and how much energy it will save you. Now here it is at a slow tempo and up to speed. Notice the little grace note slide I put in the first measure on beat 3. You may or may not want this in your playing, but it just sounded like something cool to me, so I put it in there anyhow. The next part of this is a combination of using the 3-string blocked chords and some single note playing. The key here is going to be to not let the blocked chords overpower the single note playing. Even though there's more string sounding, you have to show some finesse in your playing and not play those as loud to make the single notes sing out. So here it is. Okay, to play this next line like I do, I play these octaves with strumming my thumb over the octave like this. But to be able to do that worth anything, you have to be able to mute the strings that you're not playing all with your left hand. Earlier I talked about muting sympathetic strings or ringing strings a little bit with the right hand and single note playing. This is going to be more like when we mute notes when we play those chords. So you want all the muting to happen in your left hand. So for this shape, those two shapes are the same. I'm muting all the notes higher than my first finger, but laying my first finger over it. And then I'm muting all the lower notes with my second finger, kind of reaching for them. So it allows me to strum my thumb at will without bumping into any other notes because they're all muted besides the two that I want. It takes a little experimenting and a little practice, but after a while, you'll be sounding just like Wes Montgomery. The final bit of this can be the hardest part for a lot of young guitar players. Very few guitar players that have come into play in jazz have experimented playing with the right hand. And in this last bit, since I put the pick in my mouth to get it away from my thumb, I just went ahead and played the last part by blocking all 4 notes in each chord with my fingers. Um, so basically I'm using my thumb, my index, my middle, and my ring finger to block chord all of these different chords. It's very difficult to make it sound good though, because they have to all be the same volume and the same tone. So it takes a little practice, a little something that you maybe haven't done. Another thing too is it's hard for your left hand to coordinate quick blocks of chords, that are playing at all the same time, because you don't get the benefit of strumming through them and having one note catch after the other. They kind of have to come down at the same time. So once again, to do this, my best advice is to go through there and figure out what fingers are moving on what strings, and being very detailed with your left hand fingering and consistent. I've went ahead and included a fingering on the tablature that I include. So here it is, slow and fast.
A two, a 1, 2, 3, 4.